Hey Pathfinders, our book has finally arrived. The Pathfinder's Journey is live on Amazon right now and ready for you. If you have already purchased our book and or left us a review, we thank you endlessly. If you haven't, what are you waiting for? The ebook sale of 99 cents won't last long, so head over to Amazon today to get your copy. Be sure to download the free 7-day reading journal to make your journey even more worthwhile. Well, that's all for now. Check out the link in the show notes to get your copy of The Pathfinder's Journey today. Enjoy the show. And so the abundance mindset of changing your opinion on time is stop lying to yourself. You have time. You have time to read that book. You have time to listen to that podcast. You have time to go do these things that will make you a better person and help you to reach certain goals. Welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast with your host, Eric and Tiffany Vogel. We spent several hard years building a rental property portfolio so we could have more time with our family and live our ideal life. Finding your path can be difficult, so we're here to help guide you along the way with lessons, tips, and tricks to design and implement your dream life through real estate investing. Now sit back, turn up the volume, and get ready for this episode of the On Purpose Investor. Hey Pathfinders, and welcome back to the On Purpose Investor Podcast with your host, Eric
and Tiffany.
So glad to have you back this week, where we're going to be talking a little bit about scarcity and abundance. How do you shift your scarcity mindset into having an abundant mindset? When we got started, we obviously had a scarce mindset. We had a limited amount of money that we either made or had to put toward our investments.
We didn't really have a lot of money. Everyone kept asking, do you have equity in your house? And it's like, I just bought my first house like 2 months ago, so no.
I had to rent my first house because I had no equity.
Well, it wasn't your first house, but...
I sold my first house.
Yeah, and then blew the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay though.
Yeah, it'll be all right.
Yeah, but we had to use the resources we had, which wasn't a lot.
Yeah, it wasn't.
To get started, and it caused us to view things in a scarcity. You know, our hands were closed tight.
Right, and that mentality is that if you have your hands close to you and they're closed, you will never be able to receive because your hands are closed and pulled tight to you. We have a really good friend that explained this in such a great way when he first moved here from the Dominican Republic, and he started getting into investing here back in the 90s. And he said, when I first bought a few houses, I really didn't understand that mindset of, you know, you have to be willing to give in order to be willing to receive. And that is an abundance mindset that he didn't have. And when he did is when he saw himself to win bigger. So when he was willing to give himself or his money or his time to things, it would come back to him tenfold at times.
Yeah.
And we've seen that happen in our life too.
Right.
Whether it's giving to the church or some type of community event or giving our time to something.
Or just in our interactions with tenants and not chasing every penny that they owe.
Right.
But being generous and accepting what they can give us, and especially during COVID, and just moving on.
Right.
So, starting with scarcity, what is a scarcity mindset to you?
I looked it up and I kind of got a more like Webster's definition of it, which, you know, scarcity by definition is, you know, a lack of a resource or a shortage of something. And in the way I put it into mindset and how it affects our business and how it increases the ability for entrepreneurs to be successful, avoiding a scarcity mindset, that mindset would be the feeling of not having enough time or money. The feeling of. It's not that you don't have it. And some of you might be thinking, well, I don't actually have money or time. But I would challenge you. I think everyone has the money and the time. It's just they have to be able to align their life with what they're shooting for.
Yeah, we all get the same 24 hours in a day.
Right. And we all have different jobs and income streams.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is, if your kids were hungry, you would make sure they got fed. Like, that's not a question. Like, did your kids eat today? Of course they did. You fed them. So you make time for the things that are important.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for us right now, we're both trying to get back in shape physically. And it's really hard to find the time to get to the gym.
It is.
It's really hard, especially with the business and everything that we have going on right now. And it doesn't always happen, but we are really striving for that. So you focus and you put your time where it's important to you. So is starting an investing career or pursuing your dream life really a priority for you?
Right. And, I mentioned money, and a lot of people, when you ask them, well, they come to you and they say, hey, I want to get started in real estate investing. What should I do? And, we give them the mindset things that we recommend they do. And then one of the most common things everybody will say, but I don't have any money.
Right. There's different strategies in real estate.
There are so many strategies out there that you can become a real estate investor in some way with zero money.
Right. And we're working on a course right now that will hopefully launch in the next 6 months or so. And one of the things we're going to talk about in there is, what do you have in your toolbox and what do you need to get where you want? Because we all have different tools. And if money's not in your toolbox, you have something else that you can use.
And I'm telling you, there are plenty of people out there that have the money to invest, but they don't have the time to invest. And we're in that course, we're going to uncover the different things that you can do with different toolbox packages.
Right.
So if you have a lot of money and no time, there's a solve for you.
Yep.
There's a resolution for you. If you have no money and a lot of time, there's going to be an answer for you.
Right.
Maybe you have a little money and a little time. There's going to be an answer for you there. Everyone's going to have a different toolbox. And if you have you and your spouse or you and a partner, if you are two coming together and you both have different toolboxes likely, and y'all combine that, there's going to be an answer for you as well.
Right. I think partnerships are a big thing. We fortunately had each other as equal partners in our business. But if your spouse is not interested or you need another partner, being willing to share pieces of the pie, whether it's a money resource or a knowledge resource, it's better to have a piece of something than 100% of nothing.
So would you say that a scarce mindset is someone that may approach a deal and say, well, I can't do it, and if I can't have all of it, I don't want none of it.
Right.
That's a scarce mindset?
Yeah. And I think it can also be, right now, rates for like hard money loans is 10%, and it's like, well, I don't want to pay 10% interest. That's so high. And walking away from a deal because you don't want to pay extra in interest or a high interest rate. But you would still clear a good profit on it if you just be willing to pay that.
You were closed-minded to what those numbers look like.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
So having that scarce mindset is a limiting belief system.
Yeah.
Is really what it is.
And we had it early on, our hesitancy to pay for education. We talked about that on a previous episode. We didn't want to spend money on courses because we thought it was a waste of time and it was a waste of, several $100s that could be invested in the business.
Right.
And we finally decided a couple years in to go on a cruise that was a seminar cruise, and it changed everything about our business.
We were about 18 months into our investing journey when we went on that cruise. So for 18 months, I think we had bought 3 or 4 rental properties before we went on this cruise.
Right. And we read a lot of books. We listened to a lot of podcasts, so we were still educated.
We had a ton of education.
But I think it was the network and the community that really
And it was being around people that would challenge you. And, I remember going up to Pete Fortunato on that cruise. I told him, I was like, hey, we've been investing for a year and a half, and we've bought 4 rental properties. Like, why only 4? And in my mind, I was like, we're winning. We're doing great. And then, Pete says, why only 4? And it just challenged me to think, like, in my head, I was winning, but in his head, he was saying, you could be winning even more.
Yeah.
And just being around people like that would increase your thoughts and of what success looks like and what your capabilities are. So.
Well, I think at that point, we were, in our minds, big fish in a small pond. Because the people around us, including our family, thought we were crazy for how many houses we were buying, and we still weren't married.
Mm-hmm.
I think by the time we went on the cruise, we were married.
Yes. We
were doing things faster than most of the people in our network at our local meetups and things like that. So we thought we were doing awesome, and then you get around, you go into the bigger pond, and you're like, holy crap, like, these guys are really killing it.
I'm a really small fish in this giant ocean.
Yeah, as we were on the ocean. I like that.
Oh, wow. I don't know what you drank this morning, but drink it again.
Some coffee. So while on this cruise, we decided we needed to be part of a mastermind, and that had a significant cost associated with it.
Yeah.
That we definitely didn't have the money for, especially after paying for the cruise.
No, I remember looking at Tiffany and I was saying, hey, I really don't care how much this costs. I think we really need this.
Yeah.
Because we were on pace to reach our goals, but I truly felt like we had some road bumps and speed bumps to get over in our minds in order to achieve them a little faster.
Right.
And some of those beliefs were we hadn't experienced it yet.
Yeah.
But we needed to figure out how to.
Right.
And some of that, deal structuring strategies and some of it's, partnership strategies and stuff like that. And I hadn't flipped a house yet.
Right.
And I wanted to go flip a house. And I was terrified to do it because didn't know what I didn't know. And that was another scarce mindset.
Right.
Was, well, I'm going to go do it like a rental property. And what if the market turns? What if it doesn't sell for more than what I have in it? What if this? What if that?
Yeah, I think the '08 crash had us scared to flip.
Yeah.
Because of how that turned out for a lot of people.
And we really thought that we were heading in that direction.
Right.
And I flipped, was it 3 or 4 homes that we've flipped in total?
Yeah.
4. And they were all in 2018, 2019. We thought the market was going down, but we didn't know what we didn't know, and no one can really predict the real estate future. Some people may speculate and guess well, but you can never really tell which way it's going.
Yeah.
And, looking back now, it's like, wow.
We should have done more.
I should have done more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think the thing we needed from the mastermind was we needed more tools in our toolbox. We had a hammer and a screwdriver, and we needed a wrench and, I don't know, a PEX crimping tool and a saw. We needed different tools.
Right.
And not just in strategy, but in mindset. And that's what our mastermind gave us.
Yeah. They encouraged us. They pushed us. They challenged us.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember leaving that first retreat thinking, well, I didn't plan on selling my business, but I guess we're selling it. I didn't plan on buying these extra properties, but we're doing it.
Yeah, that's something we haven't talked about yet on the podcast. We had a handyman business for a couple of years, and in essence, it was sucking up so much of our time that we weren't able to focus on our real estate investing. Yeah. And time per earnings, it just did not make sense for us to continue operating it. So we did eventually shut that down.
Right.
I think that mastermind definitely gave us the tools so that we could take the next step in our business.
Yeah. That scarce mindset, it makes you think, well, I'm not financially in a position that I can afford this, whether this is a course or this is a seminar, this is a cruise or a mastermind. If you think, I do not have the resources to afford this, whether I don't have the money or I don't have the time, well, you'll never reach your desired goal of where you want to be unless you figure out how to get that resource that you feel like you're lacking.
Right.
If you feel like you don't have money for that course or tool or whatever you're buying because you really need this to get to where you want to be, but unless you find that time or that money to do that thing, you may reach your destination, but it might be severely prolonged.
Right. Yeah, I feel like for us, one of the things we've had to do in the last 2-3 months is hire a house cleaner. Mm-hmm. It's not something I think we still have a little bit of a scarcity mindset in that, well, I mean, we could clean the house or it doesn't have to be that clean, but we realized that was one of the things on my top 10 was having a clean house. And it creates clarity for me so that I can come and sit here and record this and not be thinking about how filthy the house is. And I can focus on building the course and all these other things. So I'm able to focus on things that'll generate more revenue for us in time instead of worrying about a couple $100s a month going towards a house cleaner. So it just creates this space for me and you, but I know it's something that I really wanted. So we hired someone to cut the grass this summer.
And that was a hard thing for me to do because, I don't know, I sort of enjoy mowing the grass. I get to be outside, but I don't know. It's one of those things, my nose always runs after I do it. I got to wear a mask when I cut grass because all the dirt gets in my nose, and I got these long nose hairs that like to hang on to dirt.
We don't need to talk about your old man nose hairs.
Oh.
Basically, the great thing about the guy cutting the grass was you were able, I think you went to the grocery store while he was cutting the grass last time.
Right. And then we have now decided that we're going to not go to the grocery store with the exception of going to like Costco to get some bigger things. But now we're going to start just doing like a click list thing and having groceries ready to pick up instead of spending all the time walking through the store, because now we can just save time there as well. And, you know, you might be wondering, well, are you really being that proactive in your business that you need all of this time? One thing that I think breeds success and fully pushes you to a maximum potential is something called rest. Yeah. Not doing something.
That's been hard for me because I am a go, 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 go until I just crash. But I'm learning, like I took a couple days by myself in the camper and just stayed at our land, and I came back with more ideas than I left with. I mean, it was crazy how our business transformed in those 2 days just because I got away from the daily grind and took some time for myself. I guess don't count on rest giving you great ideas, but it feels like more things flow when you give your brain time and space to relax.
That could absolutely be a abundant mindset. Right. You know, the scarce approach to time for rest may be, well, I'm still chasing after my goals. I need to be proactive and be listening to this podcast or reading this book or doing this course material at any, you know, given off time. I've got to do this. I got to do this. Well, you also need time to absorb.
Right. Your brain has to consolidate the information into your long-term memory.
That's right. And so take that time and go listen to those podcasts. But once you're done with that, rest. Take a few minutes. Take 10, 20, 30 minutes. And that is an abundance mindset to say, I'm going to give myself time to do nothing. And if you need time to do nothing, you might have to hire a house cleaner. Right. Or someone to cut your grass. Or someone to cook you dinner once a week.
Right. Whatever you don't enjoy is really what it boils down to.
And like we said, you only get 24 hours in a day. And a lot of you are saying, well, I'm busy those 24 hours. You know, this is all happening. This is all happening. But you can spend money to replace something to give you that time.
Yeah. And I read a book recently, We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rodgers, that really shifted my perspective on this. Because she talks about, you might need to spend some money hiring a personal assistant or someone to help out around the house. But if you can take that time and put it into building your business and generating 10 times the revenue of what you paid for that hour that you got free. I mean, our house cleaner, there's 4 women that come. They're there for about an hour. If I was doing that on my own, it would be 4 hours. What can I get done in 4 hours worth of time? Mm-hmm. A lot. I mean, and that could lead to a much higher revenue and profit for us. It's a return on your time and an investment on your time. And sometimes I use that time as rest, and that's okay. But I come back ready and more recharged when I do have time to work.
And currently, I mean, we are facing a scarce versus abundance mindset issue literally as of 2 to 3 hours ago. Yeah. When I met with a foundation repair person for one of our homes, we're going to call this house the Bungalow. Yep. It's a cute little 2-bedroom, 1-bath house built in 1930. It's tucked away in a little side street in our area. It's about a half mile from our house. Really love the location of it. Love the house in general, but the floors are a little wonky. And I hired a company to come out and give me an estimate on, well, what should I do to fix these floors? And what they uncovered is part of the house is sort of falling in.
It's the kind of house we would love to buy, not the kind of house we want to have owned for 3 years.
Yeah, and, you know, it uncovered something pretty grave. We are absolutely going to do everything we can to not be slumlords or ever be identified as a slumlord. Some folks out there might say, fix the leak, put some kills on it, put some OSB on the floor and put carpet on it and send it back, you know, and get a new renter in there. And in my mind, it's just not good enough. It needs to be removed. It needs to be fixed. It needs to be done right.
Yeah, and I think the big scarcity abundance struggle right now is we had a lot of turnover and a lot of turnover repairs that go along with it.
Over the past 2 months or so.
Yeah, so our reserves are depleted. Mm-hmm. We're kind of at the situation where it's like we don't have the money to fund this significant repair that has to happen. So we have a way that we know we're going to use to find the money and make it work and get it done. But it's one of those, it's kind of like our last resort money that we try to not touch. Mm-hmm. It's nerve-wracking, but we know putting the money into this property is going to create a better return in the long run for us versus doing the shortcut.
Right. We could say, let's just put $10,000 onto this and find a contractor and say, hey, I've got 10 grand. This needs to be fixed. Whatever you do, whatever. All you got is 10 grand. But instead of doing that, and I think that's still kind of a scarce mindset, instead of doing that, I'm going to hire a contractor to come in and say, hey, here's what I want it to look like. I need you to give me a quote on what it's going to take to get there.
Yeah, I think your previous scarcity mindset would be, well, I need to go fix it.
Oh, absolutely.
You would wait till I go to bed at night, and then you would go over there and work for 3 or 4 hours and get it done.
There's a small little creature inside of me that's itching to just jump out and do that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because that's like what built who we are today.
Right.
That creature that I've shoved down in there, I call him the little dinosaur man, right? He's trying to get out.
I was thinking it was a gremlin, so.
No, you can feed this guy after midnight. It's fine.
Oh, okay. So it's not like our dog.
Essentially. But he just wants to jump out and go work on stuff and do those things and pour that sweat equity in.
But you would be so depleted that you wouldn't be able to sit here and record this podcast episode.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you would just be dog tired
from
working all night. So we've had a shift, and it's hard because you're good at that. I still do the accounting. I probably shouldn't be doing our accounting, but it's something I'm having a hard time turning over, and I'm hopefully will in time.
And I'm still managing some rental requests, maintenance requests on the rentals, but we are still shifting and going away from this scarce mindset. Yeah, and I think it's always going to be a challenge.
Right.
Because you were born and raised a certain way.
Right.
And if your whole life you've been taught you don't buy 20-ounce sodas at the gas station. You don't do that because you can buy a case of 12-ounce cans from the grocery store and pay a fraction of that cost. And if you were raised that way, no matter what you do, you're probably never going to buy that 20-ounce soda in the gas station.
It's funny. We talk about money doesn't grow on trees. And I made the joke one time long ago, but it does grow on the trees in front of my rental properties. Because our rentals produce cash flow with minimal work. So that was a shift to abundance. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I know most of us have heard some form of money doesn't grow on trees growing up.
Yeah.
But how can you change that so that you can find a way to make money grow on trees?
For sure. And if you own peach orchards or apple orchards, that's money just growing right there on the tree. We have a friend that has a peach orchard, and he just invited us out for peach picking next week. Yeah. Money grows on trees in many different ways.
Yes.
But ours just happens to grow on the oaks in front of our rentals.
Yes. So abundance. What's abundance to you?
Well, abundance is having a lot of something.
Yeah. Having your hands open and willing to share and give, to receive.
Mm-hmm. Thinking abundantly about time. You know, what does that mean to you? And I'll tell you, to me, thinking abundantly about time is, well, there's only 24 hours in a day. I don't have time to go do X, Y, Z. And I have been convincing myself I don't have time to go work out. I've just been convincing myself that. And why did I convince myself? Because it was convenient.
Right.
If you are conveniently putting time in the way of something you know is going to make you a better person, you know, physically, mentally, you know, financially.
Right.
Then you are the only person in your way. And I was the only person in my way. And so the abundance mindset of changing your opinion on time is stop lying to yourself. You have time. You have time to read that book. You have time to listen to that podcast. You have time to go do these things that will make you a better person and help you to reach certain goals. So the abundance mindset on time is it's there. You just got to stop lying to yourself.
Yeah, I think with real estate in particular, it's viewing deals as a win-win situation. So when you're sitting at the kitchen table with a seller and you know they could sell this house on the market for a lot more than you're willing to offer them.
Right.
It feels a little slimy at times because you're like, I feel like I'm just not being fair to this person. But then when you look at it as, well, they're not going to have to clean out the property. They're not going to have to fix up anything. They get to hand the keys over and walk away and move on with their life. For some people, that is worth the cost that they are giving up and potential upside of listing the house.
Yeah, so the scarce thought pattern to this is when you buy a house, there's a win-lose situation. Right. The buyer is winning because they bought it at a huge discount. and the seller is losing because the seller lost money.
Right.
Or switch that around. The buyer bought it at a way high premium, and the seller sold it for way more than they bought it for,
right.
and that seller won and the buyer lost.
Yeah.
But the abundance mindset is that both sides of the table are winning.
Right. So one of our flips that we bought was a referral from someone we know, and the gentleman lost his sibling, and it was a hoarder house.
Yeah, it was full of stuff.
Yeah.
And it had been smoked in very heavily.
They had owned it for like a year, right?
It was over 3 years ago that his brother had died.
So it just sat there for 3 years.
Yeah.
And they ran the air conditioning and things like that. So it was in great shape.
They had a hard time bringing themselves to going through all the stuff.
Right.
Because it seems like to me that it happened quite suddenly.
I think that, and I think the sister-in-law passed away in the home.
Yeah.
And his wife found her.
Yes.
So every time she went into the home, it was an emotional battle of remembering finding her sister-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, the proceeds on that house was not important to them in their financial picture because they just wanted their brother and sister-in-law back. But they were willing to sell us this property at a discount just to not have to go back in.
And I probably still paid more than what a lot of flippers would have paid.
And we made a lot on it.
Right. And, we offered the seller a couple of different options and said, we can split the proceeds after we've both made our minimums, or you can buy it at this price, or I could buy it at this price. You're going to get a little less, but
there's no risk.
There's no risk, and I'm going to get all the upside on this side. So he had the opportunity for us both to experience the upside together, but we shared the risk. And
he was emotionally done.
And he was done. And I think when you're able to feel like you've given all of the options to a seller or to someone that's going to go through a transaction with you, so long as you have been faithful and ethical and moral throughout the process, it's a win-win.
Right.
Because whether you think it's winning to them or not, that's not for you to decide.
Right.
For this gentleman that we bought this house from, it was winning for him.
Right. You're not trying to scam grandma.
No, not at all.
You're working something out that benefits what they need.
He won because he was able to get enough money out that satisfied him and his wife.
Right. And
he won.
And they got to walk away from the property. But then as we were going through everything, we found photo albums.
Yeah.
So they didn't miss out on getting those. We dropped them off at his house to make sure that they got them. So the family heirloom still stayed in the family. So he was able to walk away and not have to worry about, did I leave something in there that, my grandkids would want. So it was a win all the way around. So all of that to say,
well, this one was a unique one, and I'm gonna just add a little 3-minute anecdote to this, but it's a continuation. Okay. It's a win-win-win. Because when we sold the house, the person that ended up buying this house from us the morning of closing, and I was told this at the closing table when I was with them, she said, we were walking around and trying to figure out where we're going to put stuff, and, was buying this house using money that was given to them through a lawsuit. And the lawsuit came from their child, adult child, had gone through a medical issue.
He was prescribed the wrong medication.
He was given the wrong medication, and
passed away.
Yeah, the pharmacy ended up settling on a lawsuit, whatnot. But this money that they had from that lawsuit was buying this house. And they just wanted to be sure that they were being good stewards with their money, with the money that came from their late son. And she said, I am at peace. I am so comfortable with what happened and the way everything's going. Obviously curious, please elaborate. She said, well, this morning while we were walking around, I noticed something in the grass, and I reached down and picked it up, and it was a Christmas ornament, and it was an angel with wings spread open. And she said, I just started crying because I know that's my son. He was with that ornament, whether it was dropped or left, was there for a reason. And that is my son telling me that this is okay, that this is a good use of this money. And that's where I think it probably will not always happen that way, but that was a win-win-win.
Right.
Everyone, I feel like, won in that situation.
Yeah.
But that was from having an abundance mindset.
Right.
From being open. And it started all the way back at being abundant about going on a cruise.
Yeah.
All of that all of that came from that.
And being willing to close the handyman business, because there was some ego and emotions in that of we don't want to admit we had failed.
Right.
But it just was not the right business for us and not the right time. And by being willing to close that business, we were able to focus on the real estate and really accelerate our portfolio.
Right.
And just generally, like, when money got tight, we put effort in and found a way to make the money we needed. So that's when we started flipping and pursuing other strategies.
And there are many people out there that say, wow, the Vogels, they're lucky. They are some lucky folks. And, other people might say, wow, they have encountered some good fortunes. And I tend to often disagree with them. While I do believe there are some bouts of luck out there, luck doesn't accidentally just happen. I think you create the opportunity for luck.
Right.
You create opportunities in general. We weren't lucky to have, that gentleman come to us with this house that we flipped. Right. That wasn't luck.
We were proven as buying houses and being good people.
And
really.
we were recommended by someone that trusted us.
Right. And then we took care of him.
Absolutely.
That buyer. So then when we got another opportunity to purchase a home that we kept as a rental, we were able to say, hey, if you're concerned, call this guy and he'll tell you how the experience was.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's your daily actions that create luck.
Are we lucky when we have a good refinance? No, I don't think so. Because I feel like we got ourselves into a situation that would give us that outcome.
Right.
And that is opportunity.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
And some of you, I would absolutely love some feedback on this. Like, do you think you have good luck or bad luck? Or do you think... Well, I want to know.
I want to talk about the Vogel curse for a minute.
So, yeah, there is a thing called the Vogel curse. And it is alive and well.
No.
Just not in my life anymore.
That was the scarcity mindset.
Yes. So, in growing up, something would break. Murphy's Law. Something would break, and it would always break at the most inconvenient time. And my dad loves to call it the Vogel curse.
Right.
Driving down the highway, and the trailer tire pops. That's the Vogel curse. Or, you open the fridge up in the morning and realize that the fridge died overnight. The Vogel curse.
Yeah. Anything bad happening was the Vogel curse.
Yes.
And it drove me crazy. Life happens. Like, it's not a curse. It's just, part of it was poor planning on your part sometimes.
You'll never be able to convince my father.
Oh, I know.
That it is not a legitimate curse.
Because I talked about Murphy's Law with him one day, and he's like, oh yeah, we just call that the Vogel curse. And I was like, yeah, sorry, I did not use the right word.
Oh, man.
It's funny.
I sometimes like to bring it up and be like, oh, the lawnmower won't start. Vogel's curse.
Right. Your lawnmower is 15 years old, but, whatever.
I put a brand new Harbor Freight Predator engine on that 20-year-old lawnmower.
Right.
Frame.
And it's still
works
kicking.
Great.
Yeah.
Works great. I love
and that's
that
your abundance mindset was, well, let me just fix it.
No, that was my scarce mindset.
Right.
That was the scarce mindset of, well, I can fix it. I'm not going to go buy a new one that will work better and cut better and be easier to use.
Right.
I'm going to just fix
this
old one.
Well, I think there's some emotional ties
struggle.
to that mower, too.
It's a good mower. I like it.
Anyways, so how does someone develop an abundance mindset?
Well, I think it starts with every time you say, I can't.
Or I can't afford it. I don't have the time.
It starts with I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do that because.
Right.
I can't do something because. You have to replace that with how can I.
Right. And that came from Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah. So
his was more, how can I afford this?
His rich poor dad would say, there's no way I can afford this sports car. Or there's no way I can afford to buy this house. His rich dad told him to think instead, how can I afford this car? How can I afford this house?
Right. So just changing the way you view things.
That's right.
So we can't afford a house cleaner. Well, how can we afford a house cleaner? Mm-hmm. And we kind of decided if we gets in a situation, Eric can pick up an extra drill day. And the time he would spend on the military duty would be much more enjoyable for him than cleaning the house. Mm-hmm. So it's finding ways to produce and to be abundant in your life.
How are you going to go out through this next week? I challenge you throughout the rest of this week. Every time you hear someone else say, oh, I can't do that, I challenge you. Just ask them, say, what would you say if I challenge you to say, how can I do that?
Right.
Maybe you're looking at tickets to go to a sports game, or you're looking at a hotel stay somewhere, or you're looking at buying a car, or you're looking at something. And the minute that the thought enters your mind, I can't afford this, change it and say, how can I do it? And then figure out what you're going to do to do it.
Right.
When you say, how can I afford it? And you say, oh, I can afford it if I XYZ.
Right.
Now figure out how you're going to do XYZ. And if you say, well, I can't do XYZ, then say the same exercise. How can I do XYZ? Well, you got to do this. So it's just like a scaffolding effect. It starts somewhere. It's always going to start somewhere at the very base ground level, and you got to work your way up to the how can I.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And I always try to challenge myself to say, instead of, there's no way I can afford this $200,000 motorhome, we instead say, how can we?
Right.
And that's what we're doing. We have backed into that. And we're going to find a way to buy this $200,000 RV.
Right. And I feel like the old person in the room, but like that's what we paid for my first house.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we're going to buy a car, basically, that costs the same as the first house that we bought.
But the mindset of, instead of looking at that big RV
Right.
and say, wow, you must make a lot of money to have that thing, or you must be rich, or you must have hit the lottery.
Or inherited.
Or inherited that something. I want to be able to tell people, no, we worked for that.
Right.
Yeah, we paid for that, and we worked for that. We found a way.
Yeah.
It was our abundance mindset that got us this.
Yeah, I think also our community and just being around friends that challenge us and push us. So when we're stuck, imposter syndrome has come up for us a lot, especially with launching this podcast and the book and everything else we're doing. And just being able to call friends and have them beat us up with head a little bit and push us has forced us to get out of that scarcity and imposter syndrome mindset into more of an abundance view.
That's right.
And I also think gratitude has been a big part.
Like being grateful.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, the way the majority of Americans live, right now, you could go into your kitchen and turn on the sink and get hot water. How cool is that? Like, I don't think we acknowledge that the way we live today is better than they lived at the Palace of Versailles. And you think of Versailles as like this grand, royalty situation, but
no matter how bad your at-home situation may be, or
yeah, you're not peeing into a bucket with people watching you, because that's kind of how it went there. So,
and you have air conditioning maybe coming out of a window or coming out of the floor.
I mean,
yeah,
we live, and I know there are situations where people don't have all of this, so I don't want to ignore that, but the majority of us, if you're listening to this, you have some kind of a device that can play audio. So you have either a phone, a smartphone, a computer,
tablet,
something. You have more than a lot of people in the world.
Yeah.
And just being able to acknowledge and appreciate that can shift you away from that scarcity view into a more abundant view.
So just looking around and being grateful for what you have.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, I need more. So being rich with what you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Wow. Really enjoyed talking abundance and scarcity with y'all. But we want y'all to join us next week, where we're going to talk about how we shifted our strategy to win in this zoomin' boomin' market.
Yes. All right. Thanks, y'all, for hanging out with us and listening to us talk about scarcity and abundance. What lessons can you take from this conversation and apply to your life? Don't let the time you just invested go to waste. You only get one life, so live it purposefully. That's all we have for you today. See you next time.
Are you ready to discover and build your dream life? Then it's time to become a Pathfinder. Head over to onpurposeinvestor.com and sign up for our newsletter to get tips and tricks to help you find your path and get the latest from our blog. If you haven't already, we'd really appreciate an honest review on your favorite podcast app. If you're enjoying this show, share it with friends, family, and fellow investors. See you next time at the On Purpose Investor Podcast.